Well, hello everyone. My name is Dara Rath and I'm the pastor at Faith Lutheran Church in Port Elgin, Ontario, Canada. And each week I bring you a story that takes about 5 minutes to watch. The story this week is from a book called Flowers in the Wind by Robert Coos, and it's called Love Your Enemies. There was once a young minister who was called to his office to see a young man. It was almost supper time, and the minister was not pleased to be called to his office because it was his day off. When he got to his office, he found a young man. His clothes were dirty, and he smelled terrible. The minister correctly identified him as a street person. The young man introduced himself only as Jim. As Jim began to tell his story, he told the minister he had no place to stay. The minister immediately suspected that the young man was going to ask him for money. Deep inside himself, he hoped that his housekeeper would interrupt him and call him to dinner. The young man continued with his very, very sad story. The minister felt the story dragging on and occasionally glanced at his watch. During the young man's story, the housekeeper interrupted to tell the minister that he had a phone call. He excused himself and went to answer the phone in another room. When the minister returned to the office, he found that the young man had left. The minister realized that his manner and lack of compassion probably made the young man feel less than welcome. Therefore, he went to the door and looked up and down the street to see if he could find the young man, but he could not see the departed visitor. Feeling remorseful for the insensitive way he had treated the young man, he got in his car and went through the neighborhood looking for this young man named Jim. Finally, he spotted Jim and pulled his car to the curb. When he called out, Jim just kept on walking. So the minister parked his car, ran up to the sidewalk, and stood in front of the young man. "Jim," he said, "I'm so sorry that I had to leave. Would you come back, please, with me and finish our conversation?" The young man just shrugged, said in a low voice, "You're just like everybody else. No one wants to listen." With that, Jim walked around the minister and disappeared into the night. What a sad story this is. What makes it even sadder is that every one of us, at one time or another, has treated others in a way that is insensitive or lacks compassion. It's a good idea to identify the types of people that we have trouble accepting in a kind and sensitive way. For example, in the world of hospitals, a world in which I personally have worked most of my life as a chaplain or a nurse, I know that there are certain types of patients that staff members have a difficult time accepting. These include patients who are demanding and ungrateful, or loud and rude, or have problems that they brought on themselves. In everyday life, each of us has certain people whom we don't like. The constant complainer who does nothing to change their life circumstances. The whiner, the lazy person, the self-righteous person who thinks they're holier than everyone else. Oh, and there's the know-it-all, the busybody, the gossiper, the judgmental person, and so on. Once we know the types of people we have trouble accepting, we can take measures to be especially careful to be kind and sensitive to such persons. For example, people who work in customer service have to do this as a matter of course every day. In our lives, maybe we have an in-law who knows how to push our buttons. When they come to our homes for a visit, we can make a plan for how to reduce the possibility that we will treat them in the same way they are treating us. This, of course, takes maturity, both emotionally and spiritually. There are times when we need to put the needs of a group ahead of the needs of an individual. This happens in organizations all the time. When a person is destroying the family unit because of an addiction-related negative behavior, for example, we need to remember that the good of the group may trump the needs of the individual. So, as we go along this week, let's try and think of the people that we treat unkindly, that we don't accept, and think of how we could change our behavior toward them. So thanks a lot for taking 5 with me, and blessings on your day, and I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.